Hey, on this episode of Creator Chat, we talk with Richard Comley, creator of Canada's most popular superhero, Captain Canuck. Make sure you stay to the end to see the winner of the 2,000 subscriber giveaway. Oh, Canada.
Thought you were going to sing it.
No.
God, kick us off there, pal of mine.
All right, so here we are with Richard Comley, the creator of Captain Canuck.
And I'm talking, you guys are in, where are you located again?
Staten Island, New York.
Yeah, we're in New York.
Oh, you're in Staten Island. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't have the Staten Island accent, do you? Or
I do, yes. He does. Not hearing me speak yet. We've actually met before. I met you. You were at a convention in Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
Probably about 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. I didn't have a beard then. I was
okay.
I had more hair. No, I'm kidding. I know. No, I bought a bunch of stuff that I bought figures.
Yeah, no, I'm not a native. He is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every day of my life. And where are you right now? Where are you?
I'm in Paris, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And it's we're about a little over an hour west of Toronto.
Okay.
And we're not that far from Buffalo either. We're about an hour and a half at the most from Buffalo. So
I have some history in Western New York.
Yeah,
I went to college there.
Oh yeah, where?
Geneseo, which is south of Rochester, east of Buffalo.
It's beautiful.
I'm pretty familiar with Toronto.
Yeah. No, it's all beautiful country around there.
Yeah, it's a lovely place. So we were talking about you co-created Captain Canuck.
Yes.
Ron Leishman, if I'm saying the name right.
Yes.
Okay. And that was 1975.
Well, 72. It publishes in 75, right?
Yes.
Idea comes in 72.
It was May of. So let me spell it out for you. It's easier that way. I met Ron at church in 1971, probably later 1971, and we became friends. He and I took the same course. Advertising art at Red River College in Winnipeg, Manitoba. In fact, I had seen him in the school before I actually met him.
Right.
So, and then Ron and I used to get together, and it was his idea. There should be a Canadian superhero, and in a comic book series. And I thought, I wasn't really into comics at the time, but it seemed like something that we should have, in Canada. And we talked about it. We probably got together 3 or 4 times at least to talk about it. And at that stage, I'm talking 72-ish, 72. It was just talk, and we weren't even 100% sure on the name yet. But we went with Captain Canuck, which was more Ron's idea. Captain Canada was already taken.
Yeah.
There was a Captain Canada with that guy with moose horns, as strictly, comic humor. Yeah, and there was another Captain Canada out of Newfoundland who has a very interesting costume, and I think there's only ever been like one book published with him in it, and it's very deeply rooted in Eastern philosophy. So it's an interesting read. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, like this is here in Canada kind of thing. And so I started getting serious about it in 1973. And, I wanted to explore how we would go about doing this.
Right.
At that time, Ron went out west to work in the oil fields to save money to serve a mission. We're both Latter-day Saints, and he wanted to serve a mission. And and I just carried on, with his blessings, of course. And I started working on the comic book actually in 74. So, I kind of set up shop in 1974. I was doing a few other things, but, preparing. I had never done comic books before. I'd done little comic book strips here and there for fun kind of thing. And I had been a crest designer, an embroidery designer, a clothing stylist for a while. I worked as a graphic designer. I did portraits. I did a wide variety of things before I got into comic books. And but being an artist, artists are attracted to to mediums like comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked into how it was going to be distributed. This was before direct sales. There was a few comic book stores around in North America, a handful, and but it was primarily 90% of it, or not more than 90% of it, was mass market distribution.
Yeah.
Through magazine distributors. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate enough to get a distributor who got behind it. And so the first issue, which came out in May of 95, was a July. Yes. Thank you.
You signed it too. So there's...
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyways, it did very, very well when it was first released, especially in Canada. It got a lot of media coverage. It was also distributed in, states like Michigan, New York, a number of those border states.
Yeah, okay.
Also got distribution, and then all across Canada. At that time, there were 35 wholesale distributors covering Canada, and they were all dealt. A national distributor would service them. So that's how it worked back then. It's very much changed now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole distribution system is much fewer players now, and regional wholesalers don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's quite different.
Yeah. Same here in the States.
Yeah,
everything's sort of just big distributors
now in the United States.
There are three. You said three?
I think
three. There's like three big distributors.
Yeah.
And it's all direct market. Everything goes directly to comic book stores. There's no magazine stands or that doesn't exist at all.
Are you familiar with the name of Phil Suling?
No.
Okay, you're too young. So Phil Suling, I met him. He was in Brooklyn. I met him in, I believe it was 75. I went to New York to see the printer down there and other people. Actually, the first people I went to see was a licensing agency that handled all of Warner Brothers stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went over to DC. They were very kind to me at DC. I met Rick Estrada, who became a good friend. He's also a Latter-day Saint, as it turned out. So, I went to see Phil Suling, and he was at the very, very beginning. He's like the pioneer of the direct market. He was starting to sell. There was a few comic book stores, and he was starting to supply them.
Yeah.
So he ended up buying something like 5,000 copies of Captain Canuck from me, of the number one, which was a good size order.
For an independent comic these days, that would be a great order.
Well, what did you end up publishing? Like 170,000, something like that, right?
200.
Wow.
200,000.
Really?
200,000 of issues 1, 2, 3. And then it went down to 150,000 after that. Because you got to remember, there was so many distributors. In the United States back then, regional distributors would have been like around 300, 350. And so the way it worked is that the national distributor would take the comics from the printer and ship them out to all of these different regional wholesale distributors. They would then put them in the stores. Back then, regions were kind of protected. I mean, there was no rules or laws to it, but it was just a gentleman's understanding. This is our area, and that's all gone now.
Yeah.
It deteriorated.
Those are big numbers.
Those are huge numbers for an independent.
And how did you get it? Like
there are DC Marvel books that don't sell that much these days.
Yeah, now I mean back then it was different. There was the cover prices. They were 35 cents.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing was that all comic books at that time were 25 cents, and I had the audacity to price mine at 35 cents. But I had some extra pages and some extra gloss pages and a little bit of
and you were the first color. You're the first independent comic printed in color, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How did you pull that off? That you're an independent comic, no history whatsoever behind you, and you have 200,000 published in color.
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
Well, you know how I did it? I didn't know what I was doing. Therefore, I plowed ahead, So, in the beginning, Of course, finances, making this thing work financially was a big concern. And I spent a lot of time trying to sell advertising space. Right. Too much time. I wasted time doing that. Right. I ended up with a lot of ads that you only get paid when the customer actually buys something. You know what I mean? You get a commission for those. I had a lot of those, and they didn't pay all that well, really. But it was a case where I started out with $7,000, and I was 24 years old. My parents co-signed on a loan for $7,000 to get me started. The printer I got, they extended credit to me, and they were crazy to do that, but they did anyways. You know what I mean? They just believed in the project somehow, and so you just plowed ahead. I mean, the sales were really, really good. We had stores. When I say we, it was me and my little brother helping me for a little while. Later on, I hired a guy to work with me and do try and sell ads and find deals, and that didn't work out too well either. But we got lots of mail. We got lots of I put order like posters and pens and notepads, etc.
Membership. You had a membership. You had a club.
A club membership, and I think we ended up with about 3,000 members.
Wow. Yeah,
and they paid $3. You have to look at the ad. I think it's $3.25 to be a member. For that, they got a poster, a good sized poster, a T-shirt, a crest, a card.
Where can I get a membership card? Can I still get one somewhere?
You want? I will get you one of the original membership cards if you want one.
I would love one.
I still got them.
I would love one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have all the issues. I have all 15 issues of the original run. And last time I was with you, you sold me on this.
Yes.
And you sold me on that.
Yes.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Oh, cool.
I've been a fan for a long time. This is really cool for me to have you on our show. Like, this is really cool for me that you
cool.
to do this for me.
I noticed Phil Fooling had a Brooklyn accent. It was so thick I could cut it.
I have a good size accent too. So
yeah,
I've been here my whole life. So what gave you the idea? Because in that first issue, you put in that membership and you put merchandise, where a lot of companies weren't doing that. You're a fledgling company and you're already looking to market yourself through other product. Was that all you? That's all your idea?
Yeah. Well, again, it comes back to the realization that I had to think outside of the envelope, so to speak, to generate income. Because when I looked at the numbers, they were 35 cents each, and of which I only got 40% of that amount.
Okay, right.
So that was barely covering the printing.
Right.
And with mass market distribution, you don't sell every copy. Right. It's very rare. I've never heard of it. In fact,
yeah, you would get issues returned.
There's always returns. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other nice things that happened with me is that many of the distributors in Canada, typically they would tear the cover off. They actually just had to tear the top part, but they usually tear the cover off, use that as proof that it wasn't sold.
Right.
And that's how they did their calculations.
Yeah.
So a number of the distributors shipped them back to me, the full covers, and those were then sold to a jobber who bagged them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was a big help to me. So it was like the Canadian distributor said, we're kind of thinking, let's give this guy a hand. You know what I mean?
That's great.
With this. Yeah, it was. Because we ended up, and in fact, that first issue, the first couple of issues, there was 200,000 printed. And one of the reasons I printed that many was because, the more you print, the cheaper per unit.
Yeah.
And so which really is kind of dumb when you print way too many, you know what I mean, just to get that lower price. But we ended up bagging a 1 and 2 together with a 3D diorama, which went out as a secondary item kind of thing.
I've been looking for that online, actually.
There's still a few. Yeah, there's still a few out there. I've got
I have one on eBay. I'm watching right now.
Okay. Well,
I'm seriously, Alex.
I have a friend in BC that I know has a box full.
Really?
I'm going to see him. I'm hoping to see him in October, and I'm going to get some back from
That's a
him,
good idea because they sell for pretty good money right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you published, published 200,000. Was that all published in English, or did you publish any other? Did you publish any other languages at any point?
I did. When I did Captain Canuck Reborn in '93, issues 0 and number 1 were also in French.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they were distributed in Quebec and I'm pretty sure New Brunswick. New Brunswick is very bilingual.
Mm-hmm. So there's sort of it's interesting. You said you weren't really a comic fan because you ended up creating the first successful comic since the Canadian comic boom of the 40s.
Yeah, so I'm told.
Yeah, because there was a brief flourishing of a comic book scene in Canada during the 40s.
Yeah.
Trade restrictions.
Yeah. During the war, yeah.
Too. So that's where it gave us things like, Nirvana of the Northern Lights and there was a character called
Johnny Canuck.
What?
There was Johnny Canuck.
Johnny Canuck. That's the one I was trying to think of there. Johnny Canuck.
Yeah.
Did you end up ever going back and looking at any of the old stuff or researching any of it?
Well, what's interesting is after issue number 2, I got a phone call from the creator of Johnny Canuck.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I had never heard of Johnny Canuck at that point.
Yeah.
And I what? It was like, so nice guy. He's long gone now.
Yeah.
He's probably been dead 25 years, something like that. But yeah, he did that during World War II.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think he went down to the States and worked for somebody down there for a little while. Then him and his wife became entertainers on cruise ships for the next 17 years. Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
They had a piano and comedy and stuff like that. So,
so
I know.
Yeah. So, but Johnny Canuck really wasn't a superhero. It was a very different.
No, he was a soldier.
Yeah, right. He was a spy and a soldier.
But what did he have to say about Captain Canuck when he contacted you? Was he happy that there was a Canadian?
Well, he said. I mean, he was calling me from Toronto area. I think. He's a Canadian guy, and no, he just said. He just asked me, "Did you know? Did you know there was a Johnny Canuck?" And I said, "No." And then he told me all about. And then, so in issue number 3, if you look in your number 3, I've got a 1-page article about Johnny Canuck.
I'll have to look awesome.
Yeah. Somebody else wrote it.
Yeah.
And the fact that the name, we had that name connection was good. So, getting back before don't want to forget this.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
I want to point out that Ron didn't actually work on the comic book in writing or illustration, and he doesn't draw in that style. His is very much a comedic style, but I consider him the co-creator because I would never have done this without him. This would have never happened, and so he came back from his mission, and at that point we had run out of money, and he stayed with me and George and Claude for, my family, and we had moved up from Cardston, Alberta, where were running the newspaper for a little while, and George and Claude stayed with us for a while until we all basically went to work for. Claude and I stayed in Calgary, and we went to work for a little while as illustrators, and George went back to Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. And George Freeman and Claude Saint-Domingue are such integral parts of the whole story of Captain Canuck. Mm-hmm. But at that point, Ron said, "No, I don't want to do. We didn't want to do this anyways." He became a school teacher.
Okay, yeah,
and now he does.
We're both school teachers.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
In real life.
Real life.
Oh, cool. Well, so's my youngest son.
Oh, nice.
We're both
school teacher. Yeah. He is. In fact, he just got back from Thailand in July, and he was in Thailand for 10 years working in a private school.
Yeah.
International private school. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah.
That's
quite an opportunity. Yeah.
We've been in the same school together for 12 years now.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, there has been a movie talks for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
And it always seems to be put off. Is there any hope that it actually gets put out?
There's a lot. I think there's a really excellent chance it'll happen. I'll cover. Over the years, I had so many people contact me interested in making a film. The first time I actually signed an option agreement was in '97.
Wow.
And that guy had plans. He wanted to do something else with it first, use it in advertising, for advertising purposes, and then go into, even though he was a film producer. And then that didn't materialize, So with an option agreement, as you probably know, you're entering an agreement where it holds the rights for that option,
Mm-hmm.
And while they put things together, they get cast, they get to find a director, they find their financing sources, etc. And so the next one, and then it was like a 6 months one with another company, all Canadian companies.
Yeah.
Then there's a company called Sinking Ship Productions in Toronto, very successful company with children programming.
Mm-hmm.
They've got programming, that goes all over the world. They had it for 4.5 years. Then I was with another, and then I had an option agreement where a script was written, a decent script, and that was with Mind's Eye Productions and they're based in a couple of places in Western Canada, Kenora and Regina.
Mm-hmm.
They have offices and studios out there. They have made a lot of like these $4 and $5 million movies, and you'll get Bruce Willis starring in them and people like that. Not anymore, as we know.
But we know what you mean, like those smaller budget movies,
like direct.
Yeah, and they're all action movies. Typical Liam Neeson style movie. You know what I mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so that even though we got a script written, the owner of that company, the producer, also got entangled in some legal wranglings with the production companies in Alberta, in Calgary, Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
The movie he was making at that point is with Donald and Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, okay.
It's a Western. I believe it's called Forsaken.
Uh-huh.
I actually saw it when it was screened at in Toronto at TIFF.
Yeah.
Toronto International Film.
Right.
Or whatever. And it's not bad. It's I think they gave it 2.5 stars, but it's pretty good. It's the only time the two have ever acted together.
Really?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about that. So who has the rights now?
Right now, we have an agreement with a company. I better not name them, but let me tell you this about them. So instead of an option agreement, we have a shopping agreement.
Okay.
This is favorable for both parties nowadays. This kind of morphed into a different form.
Mm-hmm.
But this company is probably the biggest in Canada.
Okay.
Another company that we were tied up with, Fatty, actually made this deal, was Boat Rocker, and that one didn't turn out. They actually were ready to do something, but the agreement, what they offered, just didn't work. You know what I mean? It's just not a good deal.
Yeah.
And Fatty was negotiating and doing all that on that one, and animation, same. I can tell you the same kind of story almost with animation. I had people, companies contacting me 30, 40 years ago about doing animation. And have you seen the animated web series?
Yes.
Okay. It's only 5 episodes.
Yes, I've watched that.
Yeah.
First time I saw you, actually, I think I watched it right after that. You mentioned it last time we chatted.
Yeah. That one, I thought it was well done, with a very limited budget.
Yes.
And it was all crowdfunded.
Mm-hmm.
That won an award, and it's still available online. People still
it's worth watching.
watch. Yeah. And so
So there is some hope. I can't get a movie, but I may get a movie to watch it.
It's going to be a few years. I mean,
That's okay. I have more time. That's good.
Yeah.
What else are you working on? Are you working on anything else right now, or you're?
Well, are you aware that next year is the 50th anniversary?
Yes, I saw something actually online recently. So what, is there something big planned?
Well, I'm working on a book, The History of Captain Canuck.
That's great.
And this interview is taking me away from working on it.
We won't take much more of the time, but thank you. We'll promote it too.
Yeah.
I'm happy to get a break. Don't get me wrong.
That's fantastic.
It's basically a biography and the history of Captain Canuck. So,
That's great.
And how about the other series?
You wrote another series back in the 70s, right? Star Rider and
the Peace Machine.
Peace Machine.
Yeah.
Is
one issue, right?
Two.
Mm-hmm.
2 issues. So black and white, very in the same format as Warren magazines, if you remember them.
Oh, I love the Warren. Yeah, I was a big
Warren
magazine.
They had some of the best illustrators ever.
Oh yeah.
And some of the best writers ever working on those books.
Yeah, we actually did a video on the history of Warren magazines and why they.
Yeah, because you're a huge fan.
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the format was not working anymore. You know, the magazine format and black and white. This wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the real connoisseurs of fine illustration were probably buying it, and it didn't work for me either. And again, it was mass market distribution primarily back then.
And the direct market hurt that because there was no place for comic store to display those.
Yeah. I know it was that the format was just not good for comic book stores, and so it limited our direct sales, substantially. And it's Fatty Hakim, who owns Lev Gleason Publishing, would like to revive it, and it may happen.
Okay,
we'll see. Tom Grummett, you know who Tom Grummett is, right?
No, I'm not familiar with the name.
Artist Tom Grummett?
No.
Oh, amazing artist. He's done Superman. He's done all kinds of stuff.
Uh-huh.
The very first job, the very first professional work he did was a pinup in the 1980 summer special for Captain Canuck.
Oh.
So you'll see it. Yes. If you go through there, Tom Grummett. Tom Grummett.
Pretty good, huh? Look at that.
Yeah. And that one looks good too. I mean, I see so many
it's a great
copies of that issue.
Yeah, it's in really good shape. You signed that one too last time I saw you.
Yeah. Anyways, and then he illustrated the raft in that Star Rider and Peace Machine. So and he was a terrific artist then. He's just gotten better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom Grummett, I mean, just check him out online, and you're going to say what?
Yeah, I know.
It's probably someone we're gonna recognize right away.
That usually happens.
It's just sometimes names slip out of our heads, but it's good to hear that there's other stuff coming up too because in my comic shop I get anything that has Captain Canuck in it. I have on a pull. So if there's a new issue coming out, they pull it from me, and sometimes I don't even realize that it's coming out, and it will be in my bag, which is cool. But I've been a fan for a long time. This is really. This is cool for me to have you on here.
Thank you.
And happy anniversary. You had an anniversary yesterday.
Yeah, thank you.
49.
Yeah.
49. Really? Yes.
Him and his wife, 49.
Yeah. My wife and I got married the day the same year that I started Captain Canuck.
Oh,
big year for you, huh?
Yeah. So I just want to mention something about George Freeman and Claude Saint-Domingue.
Sure.
So in the beginning, I was all alone. I was doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
The writing, the drawing, the sweeping the floor at night, all of it.
Yeah.
So, and after I finishing issue number 2, George Freeman came into my office. I'd never seen him before. He showed me his work. I go, what?
Mm-hmm.
And then we chat for a while, and he goes off. And all I remember him telling me was that he worked at a headstone engravers. What do you call that? I mean, where they engrave headstones for graves.
I don't even, a monument shop? I don't even,
something like that.
That's a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I mean, a week goes by, and I'm thinking, I want George to help me. Want to get going on the next issue, and etc. And I phoned probably half a dozen or more of these headstone engraving places. Nobody even heard of George, let alone. And then about 3 days later, after I'm wondering, hoping he'll come back, he walks in.
Nice.
So, and that was kind of the beginning of him starting to help me and work with me. And then Claude Saint-Aubé came along about 4 or 5 months later. He literally showed up at my door at my home. Well, I came home and there's this young bearded guy playing catch with my little brother. And Claude maybe knew 30 words of English. And he came up to me and he said, I come to help you with the comic. And so he came from Montreal. No surprise there. But anyways, I mean, okay. So, and he stayed with us for a little bit, and then he moved in with George Freeman. And I mean, it was we became a team, a threesome. Eventually, I would just focus on the writing and the lettering. Mm-hmm. George would do the penciling and most of the inking, but Claude would help with inking, and all three of us did the coloring, because the coloring was all done with paint and brush on acetate overlays back then. Mm-hmm. It was a method that I came up with the help of somebody from an engraving shop, trying to figure out how to add color to a comic book, and do it relatively inexpensively. So it was do the line art as you always normally traditionally do, acetate overlay, and then using the same paint that animators use, we colored in the page. And other publishers ended up using that, but then eventually it all went to computers,
Right. So, it's all digital now. Yeah.
I mean, really, the story of Captain Canuck from the start to how you developed it on your own, it's a great story, and I'm looking forward to reading the book when it comes out. It's done. It's a really interesting story, because you got into an industry you really didn't know much about, and I think your ingenuity and not giving up on it pushed and made something that has made a lot of people happy. It's a great character. I wish there was more of it out now, but hopefully going forward there will be, especially with the 50th anniversary.
Yeah. Well, so the 50th anniversary, one of the things I'm going to have ready for the 50th anniversary is all 4 issues of Captain Canuck Reborn, and I have to color it all, because the first 3 issues were in full color. Mm-hmm. The last one wasn't. But those first 3 issues, I can't use the coloring. I don't have the files, and it was done at the early stages of computer coloring, and some of it's not very good either. Yeah. So even if I had the files, I would want to redo it. So some of that.
And that'll be out in comic stores?
That will be distributed through comic stores?
That'll be out in comic stores?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'll be your typical distribution. The book is it's a biography. I'm talking about my childhood in there. You know what I mean? And it's not all just comic book related, obviously. But I mean, I did mention in the book, digging up a lot of memory, and I immigrated to Canada with my parents. I mean, I came with them.
Oh, you were born in England, right?
Yeah, he's from England, right? England? You're England? You're from England.
Born in England.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, so we talk about that. My mother wrote a book in early 70s. She was a writer. She wrote romance stories and articles, and her first book, and it did well, is called Going West with Annabelle.
Okay.
And if you go, we found it was also a Reader's Digest in the 1977 Reader's Digest condensed book series.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. She got a lot of mileage out of it. It was it was published in England. It was published in it was paperback and hardcover in North America. Reader's Digest translated, as well as their English. They had it translated in other languages. It was serialized in magazines in Canada, England, and I'm pretty sure Australia. So she got a lot of mileage.
Wow,
out of it,
that's great.
Yeah, and it's just basically the story of us coming to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned this in the book. I tell my kids that I was a poor immigrant kid in this country. When you read about it, the first place we lived in, well, in Manitoba, anyways, no hydro. We heated the cottage. We refer to it as a cottage with a wood burning stove.
Oh.
So you need to go to the bathroom. You need to go to the bathroom. Well, it's 50 yards behind the house. Do you know how cold it gets in Manitoba in the winter, by the way?
I could imagine.
I was in Toronto in February, and that was rough.
Well, it's a great story. It really is.
We are having record-breaking warm weather. It's like 18 today Celsius. Mm-hmm. It was 70 Celsius yesterday. It's about 70 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not normal at all.
Yeah.
So
now, do you have anything coming up? Any shows or anything you're appearing at? Anything you want to promote?
Well, I'm going to be at Toronto Comic Con, which is coming up in about a week and a half. Okay. I'm going to be at in Detroit. I think it's Clawson. It's just a one-day show. Mm-hmm. Last year, I was going to go to Heroes. They invited me to be at one of their guests. I've been to Heroes once before.
Everyone tells us about Heroes. That's in North Carolina, right?
Yeah. It's a pretty big show, and no wrestlers, no actors, just artists and writers.
I've heard everyone we talk to says Heroes is one of the conventions to go to.
We got to go to that.
Yeah.
It's purely comic book for comic book people. It's none of the... Yeah, we're going to have to get there one of these days.
I went there in 2015, and when I opened the program and I'm looking at all the guests, the first thing I said to myself after a little bit of paging was, "Who isn't here?"
It's not that bad of a drive for us. About 10 hours for us.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah.
And
anyways,
any websites or anything?
What's that?
Anywhere people can find you, like any websites or anywhere that people to go to find you, just so we could put it on here. LevGleason.com. Okay.
LEV Gleason GLEASON.com is the publisher.
Yeah, I buy stuff from there all the time.
Mm-hmm. I have a website that's it's really just a bunch of artwork. I have an agreement with an American agency, and they do what is called bulk licensing. So, and it's mostly European publishers, people, and so it's just a way to license images less expensively. But I do have a lot of Captain Canuck art on there. Cool. So we'll put that I've got that, and it's just but people can contact me through that if they want, because there's a I'm on Facebook anyways, and
we'll put links to your sites on here so people can. Really, thank you so much for joining us. We really.
Oh, you're welcome.
This has been fantastic for me more than Brian.
Anyway, thank you for giving us your time too. I really appreciate it.
And we're looking forward to the book, and I'm going to hold you to the membership card. So I've got probably about 30 of them left, something like that. They're kind of flimsy, really. Back then, Yeah, I know, but that's such a good idea to do all that so early on to promote. And I was actually looking up one of the T-shirts popped up, and those things sell for really expensive. There's one on eBay that was really.
The older ones.
Yeah, your older T-shirts. They're like, I think it's from the actual membership, which is really, I'm out there still.
That's 50. So my first licensing agreement. So that's another thing. Before we go, I understood that for us to survive, we need to find licensing agreements. And the first one I made was with a company out of Montreal called Tam O'Shanter, which at the time was the biggest manufacturer of children's tops and T-shirts at that time, and so they licensed Captain Canuck for T-shirts and pajamas. Yeah, and that. So every now and then we'll see one of those, and that's 50 years old.
Yeah, that's great. Still around. It exists in some form somewhere that people are still selling and
clamoring
exchanging.
for it.
It's real. It's great. It's a testament to your drive to get Captain Canuck.
Yeah.
This
Well, those old T-shirts. I mean, we have one, and my wife got it somewhere. She just came across it in some little store somewhere,
right.
and bought it for like $5, kind of thing. And but our kids have worn them, even though they're 50 years old. You wouldn't know that. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're fine.
They
And
look good. Yeah. Yeah. That's
$5.
good. I'm gonna go look for one.
if you ever see Going West with Annabelle, especially the hardcover or the softcover, those are very hard to find and very rare.
I'm gonna look for it.
I'm going to. My wife and I, we often go into bookstores just for the purpose of seeing.
So do me and my wife. Well, we always
Yeah.
go to bookstores. We'll keep an eye out for it. You know?
Yeah, the Reader's Digest version is a little often easier to find, but the hardcover. I mean, I've seen them online for $100+ kind of thing, and because they're pretty rare. They went out of print after probably in '77. They were already out of print, or somewhere around there. So,
Well,
I'm hoping to republish that. I'm hoping.
Oh, you want to put that out?
What's that?
You want to put the book out again?
Yeah, Going West with Annabelle with an update. So, my parents are long gone, and I'd love to see. I'm sure my mom would be happy to know that is happening again. The book was being published again, and and I'm hoping to make that happen. It might even be through Lev Gleason.
Good. Great.
So
Good luck.
we'll see.
That's
let
great.
us. Yeah, please let us know. If you get that.
We'll put it out to all our people. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. Good luck
You're
with
welcome.
everything. Hopefully, we see you down the road at the show
At Hero.
in the area. Heroes, maybe we can. Or if you're in this area, let us know. I know
Yeah.
you've been in Jersey a couple times, but
We were good. Yeah, we were going to go to Heroes last year. I'll let you go after.
No. Go ahead.
We were going to go to Heroes last year, and about 4 days before, or not even that, 2 days before we were leaving, my wife fell and broke both of her wrists.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I phoned him. I contacted him immediately and says, I can't come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to be dressing my wife every morning for a little while. And
When is it this year? Do you know when it is?
it's in June. I don't know the exact date, but you've reminded me that I need to contact them and figure out if I'm going to go this year.
Okay.
So
Very good. All right, let us know, because maybe especially if it's at the end of June, we're out of school, so maybe
get there.
I'm looking for a convention to drive to. But
Yeah.
again, thank you so much. I'll send you a link to this when it's done, but we really appreciate you.
One other thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. This is great. Yeah.
I have done lots of years ago, maybe 25 years ago was the last time I really did this. I used to do schools in Ontario, mostly Ontario, where I would go in and do workshops.
Right.
And visit authors visitors workshops, and and they'd pay me to do that back then. I haven't done it in a long time, but I did that in Mexico for free for the school system.
Wow.
in the state of Quintana Roo. And it's a long story about how it was a fluke how I ended up doing that, but it was a wonderful experience. Those kids down there just, oh my goodness, wonderful.
That's a great story.
Great.
Oh my goodness.
Captain Canuck goes to Mexico.
They'll be in the book. It'll be in the book.
Good. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. And listen, if you ever need to promote anything, when the book comes out, let us know. We could have you on again. And
We'll do another interview.
That would be
Okay.
great.
Cool.
Thank you so much. You have a good night. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So let's spin the wheel to see who the winner of the Nichelle Nichols autograph photo will be. Thank you, everybody, for subscribing. We're up to almost 2,100 subscribers now, so we are going up. Keep watching, keep sharing. Let's spin that wheel. The winner is user KJ8PD7RULK. That's an easy one to say.
Whoa.
Email us at collectorsconfessions@gmail.com and we will send your photo right out. We also have another giveaway going on right now. Give Me Them Comics. Check our episode from our last haul. You could still enter that one.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. Love what you collect.
Collect what you love.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, Richard Comley.